Hello, survivors, and welcome back to another episode of Insta-Death Survivors Support Group. And I'm back with Cezar Capacle. Thank you for joining us, Cezar. How are you today?
I'm very good. Thanks for having me once again. It's a pleasure.
We're continuing our journey with the push system resource document. Cezar is going to be hosting a jam for the push system by the time you see this. So if you're a designer or aspiring designer, this is a great system to get started with and try your hand at your very first RPG game design. So go join the jam, have some fun. You can take it as seriously or as casually as you want. I think this is a great system for exploring the whole range, if you will. Last time, we went step by step through the design process. We didn't arrive at a complete design, but we touched on a piece of every bit of the game design that's required. Since then, in the last week since I last talked to Cezar, I spent some time and filled in the rest. I made some changes, some tweaks to the original because I wanted Cezar to have a chance to be surprised. And I also took some of his advice on how to add a little bit more world flavor to the game. So, shall we get started?
Yes, we shall.
Awesome. So what I'm going to do first is I'm just going to, the game has a couple of spots where it adds some flavor. I'm going to read the very first part, which is the introduction to the world, and then we'll create our characters, and Cezar will guide us through that process and facilitate the actual running of a push game. And then I'll read through our mission and agenda, and then Cezar again will facilitate actually getting into the gameplay itself. And my hope is that by having seen the beginnings of the game design process and seeing a short actual play example of the game, you'll get a sense for not only how to design a game, but how your design choices might end up in actual play. So here we go. The game that I've created with the push system with Cezar's help is the Fires of Chaterra. There is magic in all of us, even the lowliest citizens of Chaterra, like you. This is a surreal and absurd fairy tale kingdom where the spirit of every person, animal, and plant can speak if you'll listen. The world is burning. The Fae have been forced into hiding, and the beloved King Eirik is lost in an eternal slumber, while the evil witch of the water, Nephia, plots her ascension. The themes that you can expect in this game, I think, are magic and witchcraft, good versus evil, destiny, offering emotional support to each other and to others, and then on the more difficult side, inequity and class struggle. Because there are potentially some difficult themes, and this could go in any direction, we do have some safety tool recommendations here that Cezar and I have already talked about, lines and veils, as well as the X card. As we don't have an X card, we've already talked about if we need to put a stop to a certain direction of play, we will simply speak freely to do so. And with that, Cezar, can you guide us through character creation?
Of course. So I think it's important to remind the listeners that on this very short paragraph that you read in the beginning, there is also some implications on what kinds of characters are in this game, what we play. We are, by this pitch, the lowliest citizens of Chaterra. Now, when you create our characters, that is picking those 6 traits, one of each category, those traits, they imply some aspects of the world, and they might or might not be very clear to you in the moment you create. But as we do, we can discuss our interpretations of those traits. And if something is not very clear in the moment of creation, that is fine. We can get deeper in those definitions as we play. Mm-hmm. So you can either roll for all the traits. You can pick and choose from the lists, or you can even look at all of them, and maybe that inspires you to create an altered version of one of those traits, and you decide to go with your instinct and create your own trait. All of those are valid ways to do it.
All right.
So now, how are you feeling, Brian? I like to go random when I do mine.
I'm going to go random too.
All right, cool. So we have the 6 categories you created: magic, family, experience, mark, trinkets, and bond.
Yep.
Cool. So one for each. Okay. My first is magic. So I got number 1. You can always offer a genuine smile. That's my magic.
All right. And my magic is that I'm out of lead in my pencil. My magic is 5. You can always appreciate beautiful differences.
Cool. So yeah, that's an example of a trait that kind of speaks for itself. There's not much room for interpretation. So for me, it's quite clear, at least, what to expect from that. But the cool thing I think we should remind people is that putting this under the category of magic implies something about the world, right? Right. Being nice is a form of magic.
Yep.
Now, family, I got a 5. Your grandmother was a dust fae. I love it. Love it very much.
All right. And I got number 1. Ooh, this is a juicy one. You have a secret claim to the dreamer's throne.
Ooh, it is indeed. Do you, on your head, do you think that the dreamer's throne, it is the throne of King Eirik, or it's a different throne?
Well, let me say this, because a player playing this wouldn't know my intention. So let me ask you, what do you think?
I think it is.
Okay.
I think it is. Yeah, it gives the sense that the highest person in the hierarchy of this world would sit on a dreamer's throne more than anything else. So for me, it makes sense that this is King Eirik's throne.
All right.
That's a juicy one for sure.
Especially combined with being the lowliest citizens of Chaterra.
Yeah, right? Okay, so I'm going for experience now. Mine is 5 again. Rebuild Chaterra after the Berry War. What'd you get?
All right, I got number 4. I'm an advocate for mushroom rights.
Yeah, my favorite. I'm so interested in seeing how mushrooms manifest in this world. I looked through the file and I saw there you sprinkled some characters that are actual mushrooms.
Yep.
Yeah, in the traits and the matrix, right? So yeah, super cool. Now, mark. My mark is 2. Your flash card from the Berry War. Oh, so the Berry War runs deep in my story.
Ah, man. So I bear the burns of the raging Everflames.
Ooh. I like to bolded the terms that are kind of word-building names and yeah.
My thought was that way you would be able to more easily, if you get some random element either in character creation or later in the Matrix, particularly in the Matrix, it's possible that you didn't have any characters who have any connection to it. So it might be possible that you could refer to what does exist in the character creation part and see little bits of lore that might prompt you a little bit more to come up with what might be going on. So
yeah, it makes a lot of sense. Now I get my trinket. Let's see. It's a 6. Replica of the crown of Eirik, the slumbering king. Wow.
That's an interesting one for my character.
Yeah, I know, right?
Like, I have a secret claim and you've got a replica crown.
Do we have a plan here?
Yeah, exactly. All right, so I got a special seed for Fianna. Well, how do you interpret this little parenthetical here where it says tragic
Like
queen?
tragic queen. Yeah, I thought it was like a guide for how you could insert this character in the narrative. There is an archetype and a sort of personality trait of sorts that you can, like, if you would need to cross paths with this character while playing, you have like, it's not a defined orientation on how this person is, but at least some flavor to
Yep.
interpret. And I read this one and I was wondering if Fianna is King Eirik's queen or is somebody else.
That's a good question. I don't know.
Isn't it? We might find out.
Yeah.
So you have a special seat for something that you're supposed to deliver.
Yeah, I think this gives me, so all of these trinkets. Yours was replica of the crown Eirik, and it's the only one that doesn't have a for or a from or a whatever. I was hoping that each of these implied kind of a character side quest, if you will, right? Like, so that there might be more avenues you could go down if you wanted to extend into like a campaign play, you know?
Yeah, hooks.
Yep.
Right. Cool. Like those. And finally, bond. So my bond is with, you went for people here. So I have a bond with Amir, Herod of Runo. There you go. A heroic mushroom.
Ooh, nice.
So I do have a connection with mushrooms. What about you?
So I got Kestria, emissary of Hadina, who's a elusive dust fae.
Ooh. Okay, maybe a relative to my granny.
Oh yes, that's right. Oh man, okay. You're gonna have to remind me and play some of the stuff about your characters, so that because I mostly
I
focused-
didn't take notes of yours
Yeah,
either,
exactly.
so we can mix and match. So now that we have our traits, besides giving names, pronouns, and maybe a short description, we can talk about a little bit of the traits we have, and like this is an opportunity to try and establish connections between our traits and see if we can, like, we don't need to weave a complete story together, but maybe see some potential for crossed paths, maybe in the past. So, do you have an idea for the whole picture of your character?
Yes. I'm going some random stuff that's coming to my brain, plus
Right.
some of the stuff we rolled here. Okay. So, I think that my character's name is Carter,
Okay.
and he, him pronouns. And Carter is named thusly because his sort of day job, if you will, is that he is literally one who rolls carts around.
I love it.
He's like sort of a delivery errand boy, if you will, right? Like that
okay.
takes things from place A to place B, that sort of thing. He is also he is half mushroom.
Oh, neat.
But nobody knows this about Carter. He presents mostly as human. Okay.
Okay, cool.
But he's half mushroom. His mother is full mushroom, and he is the half. I mean, not the half son, the son of King Eirik.
Okay.
But sort of a, to use a bad term, sort of a quote unquote bastard son, right?
Bastard son. Okay.
So he is not acknowledged. In fact, I don't think King Eirik even knows that he has a son, right?
Is your mother alive?
That's a good question. You know what? I don't know. He doesn't know. He hasn't seen her in most of his life, like young childhood memories of her, and that's it.
Right. Okay, super cool.
So you know what it was? He hasn't seen her since the Everflame touched upon his village, which he was living among the mushroom people. It touched upon his village, burned most of the village down, and he hasn't seen his mother since. That's why he has the burns of the Everflame. And I think he is carrying for Fiona some kind of mushroom spore. I'm interpreting the seed here that he thinks might convince her of the inherent equality and deserved equity of the mushroom people. I don't know how or why, but
yeah. We'll find out.
Yeah.
Do you know Runo, the heroic mushroom to which I am connected to Amir, the herald of Runo? Was Runo there when the Everflame touched your village? And
what a good question. You know, I think I was too young to know, but there are stories about Runo, legends even about Runo, including that he single-handedly extinguished the flames, and anybody who survived it was because of him. But I don't know.
Excellent. Oh, you were too young. Okay, cool. What else? Do you have anything else you want to highlight about your traits?
I think that I have a deep respect for Fae people.
Right.
But I don't have a whole lot of connection, except that Kestria is a human emissary of the Fae people and is a close friend of mine, perhaps because she often comes through, and when she needs something delivered into town, she'll come, get me and sort of give me work to, like, hey, why don't you come pick up the stuff to bring from the Fae people. And it's never because they're in hiding, it's never where they are, it's just in an empty field somewhere. How did it get there? Yeah.
Right. Okay, excellent. So, myself, I am Twig.
Love it.
Twig, pronounce he, him. And I don't know why, but I feel I'm like a mouse, a mouse folk. And I know why, actually. My granny was a dust fae, and I'm picturing that some of the fae folk in this world, they can shapeshift into animals. But if you are a descendant of them, but you lose connection to the fairy magic, you kind of stuck in one of those shapes. So Twig is now a mouse forever. So his connection to a previous Fae ancestry is very clear. But since the Fae have been forced into hiding, this magic that he had as a heritage is lost. So, but this doesn't stop him from being very well-spirited. He's always smiling, seeing the good parts of life, and he really hopes to see his Dust Fae grandmother again. I think the first time I approached you was because I knew you were like running some errands for the emissary, and in the hopes that I could like send a message and see how she's doing and things like that. Now, about the Berry War, I was involved, but I'm too young to be fighting on the Berry War. I think we fled as a family, and that was the last war that the Fae folk participated in this world. Before it was the last strike, and it was over like gigantic berry fields. So everybody that survived has purple stains on their body up to this day, and those are the scars I have. It's like my fur is super purple up to this day. But I think my experiences rebuilt Chaterra after the Berry War is motivated mainly because I want the connection to the Fae people to be restored. Not because I want to like go to human form. I very much enjoy being a mouse, but to experience what it is to share magic, this kind of magic, the Fey magic, once again, because we do have other kinds of magic, but the Fey magic's kind of absence at this moment because they left. Now, about the crown, I have no idea. And I'll leave it to the start of the mission to discover why in the world I have a replica of the crown with me. Unless you have an idea about that.
No, I don't. I'm curious as you.
Okay.
But
yeah,
I'll say I don't know you have it yet for the purposes of starting. Okay.
Right. Okay. It's something I keep as a secret.
Now, how much do you know about your grandmother? Is she still with you? Is she? I guess it says was. Has she passed?
I think she's alive.
She is alive. Okay.
Yeah, she is in a hideout.
Okay, so she's in hiding. Okay, cool.
Yeah, she's in hiding. I haven't talked to her since the Berry Wars.
Yep. And that's who you want to get the message to, is your grandmother. Okay.
Yeah, exactly.
Perfect. Awesome. All right. Let's read the quest.
Okay.
Mission. Thousands of nobles gather decennially, that's every 10 years, for the Laughing Blossom Festival. Whoever sits on the dreamer's throne when the last bud blooms shall rule Chaterra. But the throne is missing, and you know Nephia has it. The Everflame has scorched the chuckling trees of Laughing Mountain. Peculiar weather patterns stew over the traditional site of the festival in Whispering Gardens, and Nephia's attacks on the people's citadel have grown ever bolder. Your characters, the purple mouse known as Twig and the half mushroom known as Carter, must ensure the festival occurs, recover the throne, and find a living tree, or the kingdom and its magic will be lost forever.
Yeah.
Some of our goals here that especially if we were playing a longer campaign might come up, but we might get to tick one of these off today. Mm-hmm. Use your magic to awaken someone's purpose. Help an outsider find love and belonging. Find joy in a harsh truth of the human condition. Or in this case, the Fey mouse condition, half mushroom condition. Pay a high price for a small step toward equity. Prove that none are irredeemable.
Excellent. Very noble goals.
All right. What do we do now?
So we're ready to play. The good thing about this is that we don't need to know before we start how we start. We're going to roll on the matrix for a prompt, and this will inform a seat for the first scene. So we don't have to decide how we're involved in this beforehand, where the adventure starts or anything like that. The prompts themselves will inform an event, an item, a person, a location, and we decide how we're involved, and the adventure starts from that. Would you like to make the honor?
I will roll. And I get 4-2. Interesting. This is a groan becomes a roar. And, just for flexibility's sake, let's give ourselves a choice. It could also have been 2-4, a statue for Runo, heroic mushroom. So would you rather start in something to do with a statue for Runo or a groan becomes a roar?
Since I have some kind of connection with Runo, I'm feeling the statue a little more.
All right. Yes, because your connection is Ymir, a herald of Runo, right?
Yeah, exactly.
Cool. What are we thinking? What's going on here?
I was thinking that we could be like visiting the place on which the fight that Runo had against the flames happened.
Yep.
And we might be there together with my bond, Ymir. and we are contemplating this statue for some reason. Maybe there are still marks around of the fire, the destruction, and we can start from there. What do you think?
Sounds good. Tell me a little bit about Amir before we get started.
Right. I think he is also descended from the fairies, so that's why I have an easier connection with them, because they also lost someone after the Fae went away, and they are stuck in a kind of a squirrel form, let's say. So the scale keeps the same.
Yep.
And but I'm thinking he, so it's a he.
Okay.
What's his name again? Amir. He. So he worked with Bruno for a long time, and maybe we can declare that Bruno is deceased or gone. Is there anything that says otherwise on our world building aspects? I don't think so.
So
right?
let's just scan for Runo's name here. Runo. We get the statue for Runo. I don't see anything that contradicts the idea that Runo has passed. Okay.
Right. So, are you okay with killing Runo right in front
He's dead.
from the get?
Sure.
He's dead.
There are some though that don't accept this and believe that he's still out there, waiting to lead the mushroom people to their rightful place of honor and respect.
Do you think Amir is one of those?
Oh, I like that. Like it's known that Runo has to have passed and can't possibly still be alive. But Amir is a believer. He is a herald of Runo. So what does that mean in this context, right?
Yeah, I know, right?
What if he's almost like a prophet or something like that, in the sense that like he's one of the main people spreading the idea that Runo will return?
Right. I love it. Yeah, and maybe he claims that he actually gets messages, like reading omens somewhere, that he's sure that's Runo talking to him. Cool. And maybe that's why he summoned us at the statue, because he has a very important message that he kind of received from Runo that he wants to share with us.
All right, we're going to keep it simple. Let's call this place, is this the place, my childhood village?
Yeah, it is.
We'll just call it Mush Town.
Mush Town. Easy to remember.
Exactly. Always a plus, so Mush Town. And is this statue already standing? Is it a ceremony for it being built? Is it there and somebody wants to tear it down?
I think maybe it's I think Amir is a little exalted about his devotion to Runo, so he went ahead and put together a proxy of a statue. It's not very good, but
nice.
It's what it is at the moment. Maybe using like remains of the destruction of the fire to symbolize his effort to save the people and everything.
Nice.
So it's there.
Cool.
If you squint, you can see some traces of Runo.
Yeah. All right. Sounds good.
Right. Okay, so we need a challenge. What is, we have to answer two questions. What do you want here? And what's standing in our way? What's stopping us from getting what we want? We have some suggestions of like themes for challenges if nothing pops up. Like a barrier, a task, can be a fight, a trap, a chase, a debate, a contest, a mystery, negotiation, endurance, a threat, or a puzzle. But it is important to determine what kind of challenge it is before we start role-playing the scene. Any ideas?
Yeah, I'm thinking that I have skipped out on some of my carting duties at the last minute to come with you. So you're the main reason we're here, so I'll let you decide your purpose. But I came here because I have long been worried about whether I would be able to handle coming to this place by myself.
I
And
see.
you, somebody who I trust, coming here has given me, I think, the opportunity to come see something that I've long felt I need to see, um, with some emotional support.
Excellent. I can go on board with that. We could determine that this is the main obstacle here, main challenge. Maybe we are kind of, we respect Amir and everything, but we know that his claims are a little exaggerated. So the biggest reason we decided to actually come and see what he has to offer is to actually support you on this difficult moment. So the message itself is not as important as this moment. It's just an excuse.
Okay,
What do you think?
I like it.
Okay. So now we frame the scene. We can pick some elements to like color the thing, like camera angles, smell, sounds, lights, and everything. Since it's your hometown, what do we see when we zoom in this place?
All right. So Mushtown was once a bustling town, with all of the buildings were also mycelial, if you will, a place where mushroom people had deep respect for even the buildings they lived in because they too were alive just like them. And so it's all the more disheartening to see now that while the Everflame has moved on and isn't actively burning here, it still to this day smolders, and all of the mushroom buildings, they haven't so much burned to the ground as withered into almost like dried mushrooms, right? Dried husks, if you will. So you might not be able to enter them because some of them are so contracted, but and they're all sort of steaming, earthy, woody, smoky, and the only building that still stands in its old glory is an old watchtower that I think maybe Aymir uses as kind of his temple.
Excellent. Do people still live here at all, or it's a like abandoned?
I think that there are a few.
Right.
But whereas this used to be a bustling town of thousands of mushroom folk, now there are less than 100 people, and they mostly kind of, you just sort of like see them like look out of a a window, almost like an old western or something like that. It's just kind of like
hide the kids.
yeah, that kind of thing. Anytime somebody walks into town.
Right. I think we see that as we walk, we can like hear the echo of our own footsteps, and we take glimpses of people looking through the windows and hiding back as we walk. Do you think the statue is right in front of this watchtower, or on the main square of the town, or something like that? How do you see this?
Yeah, I think that the statue actually was built on the far side away from the watchtower because it was built right on top of some of the most damaged areas of the town as a way of saying that, this can all sort of rise again. And Runo, of course, will be the way that it happens. Yeah.
Yeah. Excellent. So we have the scene framed. Now, the actions we should perform here is they are probably towards overcoming the challenge that we established. Since the challenge is like surviving this emotional experience, we could go ahead and narrate our actions as things that Carter does to cope with the situation, and maybe the way that Twig supports him during this experience, as well as we could actually listen to Aimer and what he has to say while you're here. But what's Carter's first reaction? What do you do to like keep her standing?
Yes. So I think that I'm sort of walking behind Twig. I'm letting Twig lead the way, and I'm for the most part, I'm not allowing myself to look around at the town. I'm just kind of watching your feet on the ground in front of me. And I think at some point, it's been a long time since I've been here, but at some point, there's something about the ground. Maybe we walk just in front of a building and there is an entryway that I can see out of the corner of my eye that reminds me of something in my youth. And I stop in place and before you notice, so you've kind of walked on. And at some point you notice that I'm no longer behind you. What do you do?
Yeah, because it's so silent, right? I like look around, and there you are. What you're looking at?
So I think now, whereas I was staring down at the ground prior, I'm now looking up in the air, and the building actually is like collapsed to, just a few feet above ground level at this point. But I'm looking, well above where the building is. And I say, that used to be my bedroom.
I take a few steps closer to you, and I rest my paw on your shoulder, and I say, "Yeah, man, I don't know how you're feeling right now, but it's important for you to see. We may be small, grander scheme of things, but you can now look at this, and from what we are able to do, we might work to avoid that something like that ever happens again. And you might not have your own bedroom again, but you have a new one, and we can make sure that no one else loses theirs to the flame."
What I always loved about my home was that every home in Mushtown was different. There were so many different structures and shapes and colors, and they were all beautiful, but they weren't just homes, they were friends. So many people in Chaterra say, if these walls could talk, in my bedroom, and I had many conversations.
Do you want to take a closer look? I mean, it doesn't look very much safe, but we can take a few steps closer.
Maybe on the way out. Let's go see Ymir.
That's all right. Yeah, we can do that. Right, so I think we can take some steps in the direction of the watchtower. And one thing that's stepping out of character a little bit, one thing that's very unique, I would say, about this system is that rolling the dice is always an option, never an obligation. So for people watching it, you don't need to roll to overcome a challenge if you don't feel like. You only roll the dice if you are interested in maybe the dramatical consequences of a failure. If you want just say, okay, I'll do it, fine. No one's stopping you from doing that. There is no necessarily association to the risk of an action if you want to roll or anything like that. It's just a matter of choice.
Yeah.
Do I want or not? So we can go ahead and just roll when we feel like, okay?
Great.
So I think we see Ymir waving from the distance, and we take some steps closer, and he's also excited to share the news with us. Do you think seeing him joyful brings your spirit higher a little bit?
Yeah, I think so. I think I can't quite put my finger on why I should feel happier, but I think maybe under the surface, I'm excited to see that there are still those who are finding joy here in Mushtown.
Right. Well, this is a good opportunity for us to tap into it like 100% and maybe aim to fill one of the goals of the agenda, which is the third one.
Yes.
Yeah, so this is a tip that I give when you're framing your scene and deciding on your actions you take. You can look back to the agenda and see how you can maybe incorporate opportunities to fulfill that. So looking at find joy in a harsh truth of the human condition, maybe we can bring it into the scene, embed it in whatever Ymir has to say to us and what you're feeling about it. And depending on how we can come the other side of the scene, we can tick this little goal. How do you feel about it?
Yes, I like it. I like it.
Okay. So, do you have any ideas on what Ymir is about to share to us that maybe gives a glimpse on the finding joy in the harsh truth of the human condition?
Yes. So I think I have an idea for sort of the direction this might go.
Okay.
I'm going to talk sort of abstractly and out of character for a moment, and then we can kind of bring it back down into character. I think maybe Ymir is one who, being hopeful and maybe even semi-spiritual, right? Because he's more connected with the idea of a return than maybe the realities of the world, right? That sort of thing. He's also one that is able to see the joy in the fact that everything is temporary. And so I think there's something there where he's going to help me understand that there is beauty in the fact that everything must end.
Yeah, and I think it's very thematic to do the mushroom kind of things, right? Because they sort of have this role in the in nature of becoming like the food for what's to come. And I think that we could go in this direction that he starts giving this prophetic message, and maybe he looks at you and sees that your eyes are kind of lost looking at the destruction around, and it kind of stops what he's saying and helps you through this moment, showing that whatever happened here happened for this reason, and if it weren't for that, we wouldn't be able to maybe see the reality of the plans of the witch, and we wouldn't make this first step towards reclaiming our rights. And even if it lost it here, it was for a larger reason and something like that. And what do you think?
Yeah. So how about this? How about you give me a taste of that as by being sort of Ymir's mouthpiece for a second, and in response to a question that I'm going to ask. So I think Twig and Carter arrive at the statue, and we're kind of looking at it sideways because it's it's pretty malformed. It's not. Yeah. It's clearly this is not what Runa looked like, and if he did, he wouldn't be so beloved. And at that point, Ymir walks up. We see his shadow as he walks up, and I turn to Ymir and I ask, "Why are you so confident that Runa will return?"
And I think he stops and looks at you as if he was surprised. Like in his mind, it's obvious. And he says to you, "Look around, Carter, and tell me, what do you see here?"
I see death and destruction. I see the loss of family and lives. And I see people cowering in the shadows of a once great town.
Yes, this is true, but it's only part of it. This is also rebirth. This is the cycle of things. And here, in the very ashes of the once thriving Mushtown, is where our revolution takes shape. And through the flames that once consumed what we have here, we grow stronger. Look at you. Look at what we are. You survived for a reason. Your purple friend survived for a reason as well. And that's why we're here. I don't need you to believe that Bruno will return. I need you to believe in you, to believe that there is a reason for that. And you have a role. You have a part in all of that.
And I think Carter looks around again at the town and sees things maybe a little bit differently than he was seeing things just a few moments ago. And he notices something that only somebody with mushroom spores running through their veins would be able to really notice, which is that even the most burned and dried out husks of buildings seem to be, in a very subtle way, almost respirating, and they're not fully without life. And this, I think, actually turns Carter a little bit, like reluctantly. He's not necessarily a believer that Runo will return, but he hopes deep down that Runo might return, and what it could mean for the possibility that that his mother might return, and that mushroom people might be able to achieve the equity in the world that they deserve. But
excellent.
With hesitance, right?
Right. Yeah, it's just the first scene, but it's a glimpse. Okay, very cool. Are you interested in actually listening to the message, or we think the scene has provided what we wanted from it?
I think let's go to the next scene and see.
Right.
Yep.
Okay. Cool.
We'll retcon if the opportunity comes up and say what the message was then.
Oh, the message.
Yeah, exactly.
Flashback. Okay. Perfect.
All right, so we'll roll for the next thing, and I got 6-1 or 1-6. So 1-6 is The Lost Wings of Hadina, Elusive Dust Fae, or 6-1, Grazing at Hollow Pasture.
The Lost Wings of Hadina. You have a connection,
I
right?
do. Kestria is the emissary of Hadina.
Okay.
And you have a connection to Fae as well.
Right, yeah. So this sounds like a good choice. What do you think?
Yeah, I think so. I like it. So I think I'll sort of frame up the overall kind of idea here. I think that we've returned. It's maybe a few days later or something like that. I've been processing. I'm a little bit aloof as I'm doing my job, walking around, because I'm still processing this experience and what I learned from it. You have come to me asking about a message that you asked me to give to Kestria before. Does one of those make sense?
Makes. It does.
All right. So I think we're both lost in conversation where you're talking to me. So yeah, how about that? Why don't we just start there, and we'll get into the Lost Wings. Where I'm going with this is that we're going to bump into Kestria, and she's going to give us something that we need to go get for her related to the Lost Wings. Sound good?
Sound good. Okay. So we are probably at your place, you'd say, or we're on the road?
Yeah, so I think we're in kind of the more impoverished district of Chaterra. We're on the roads. I'm pushing a cart right now full of, it's pretty terrible smell because I've been going around and getting people's chamber pots to take to the cesspool right outside of town. So I've just got a cart full of sloshing human waste and animal people waste and stuff.
Right.
And yeah, so I'm pushing the cart along, and I'm not really paying attention to what I'm doing.
And I'm probably following along on the hopes of finally getting the answer to the message I asked you to. It's been a while, and you said that according to some sort of schedule that Castria kind of returns to tell you something. Today would be a possible day that you would stumble upon. I think it's fun if we like decide that the messages from the Fae folk, they can't happen in a very scheduled place or time. They just say, be on your way, and we find you. And so I've been following you with those smelly pots the whole day because you kind of noticed the pattern repeating, and it looks like today would be the day. And so
I think as I'm sort of reassuring you and saying, yeah, like anytime now, I'm sure, probably today, if not today, tomorrow, you just stick with
you
me,
said
Twig.
this yesterday.
And maybe at that moment, ow, right? Like, and
Right.
I've actually run, because I'm not really paying any attention. I've run the cart right into Castria, and some of this material has sloshed up onto her. She, it's pretty humble attire, and she's like, gross,
Poor thing.
What do you do at this site?
Right. I'm usually a person that offers help and is very careful with other people's feelings. But at this moment, I'm so excited that I don't care so much that she's all messed up, and I just jumped in front of her, and I asked her, "Do you have a message? Do you have a message for me?"
And I sort of jut in and say, Castria, this is my friend Twig. He's a mouse, as you could tell. Not many mice have purple fur. It looks pretty cool, don't you think? And Castria, I think, just sort of looks at us both and says, I don't know. Should we? Is this a place where we should do an oracle roll to determine whether she has a message back?
Yeah.
All right.
I'm into it.
All right. So let's see. Do we think it's more likely or unlikely that she has?
I think it's likely that she has a message.
All right.
Maybe not the message that I want, but a message, right?
Right. So if it's a 5 or 6, she doesn't have a message. If it's a 1 through 4, she has a message, and it's in some way positive. If it's a 7 or higher, maybe she has a message, but it's not good. Right.
Right.
Here we go. And I got, of course, I got a 5 or 6. No message.
Yeah.
No message for you.
Right. So this is interesting because if she doesn't have a message for me, what is she doing here? Now I think we can tie with the prompt.
Yep.
That's the wings of something.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what do you think? Has Hedina lost her wings? Is she? Does she found the wings and she needs them delivered to her? What do you think here?
I think, let's say that as some sort of consequence of the Berry War that helped or caused the Fae folk to flee, this lost connection of the way they could express their magic into this land is represented by their having wings. And this war was over when some kind of very dark magic caused the faithful, or at least the most important ones. She is elusive.
Elusive,
this Fae. Yeah, so maybe she had a kind of a stealth role in the war, and it was like an important piece for the victory of the faithful in this war, was that Adina actually got on with her mission, but when she was close to do so, this magic was released and their wings just fell off. But there has been a rumor or a hint or a clue that they can get it back now somehow, maybe related to some of the events of the mission that we are talking about.
What if there is a collector of artifacts from the Berry War? And this is so in the hoity-toity section of town, and Castria has caught wind that this collector, she's recently come into possession of a pair of wings, Fey wings, that she has on display and is sort of touting as, look what I have, you know? Like,
Yeah, just a pair of wings.
yeah, exactly.
Okay, cool. Maybe this collector, she probably acquired these wings from one of the nobles that recently came to the Laughing Blossom Festival that's about to happen.
Yeah.
And yeah, he was like a traveling merchant, and he's returning to this place.
Yep.
Okay, cool. So it's not a message per se, but it's more like a favor. And why is she asking us?
That's a great question.
Do you think like we could not raise any kind of suspicions? You just go there like if you had an important invitation or a message or something like that.
Yes.
Because you were expected anywhere.
I in particular, I'm going to go pick up his chamber pots.
There you go.
It's Chamber Pot Tuesday here in Chaterra.
You have to do it.
Yeah, exactly.
Right. Okay, I like it.
So Castria says, I'm sorry, I bear no message, but I do have a task for Carter. And actually, I'm going to let you from here take Castria on so that I can be Carter for this.
Okay. So she says, we've heard that a collector in the outskirts of town has recently got possession of something very important to us. Something that could stop the advance of Nephia's attacks. She might still have the throne, but if we get the wings back, it's a chance for the faithful to return and support the king on keeping his throne. So now I think I want to break here because we, as characters, have probably very different reactions to this. Since for me, it's great. I might have my granny back and the Fae folk back. Mm-hmm. For you, how do you feel about, like, you have a claim to the throne? Do you want to be a king? Do you want the king to stay on the throne? How are you feeling about it?
Well, I think we align okay because my claim to the throne is based on my bloodline connection to Eirik, and it's actually maybe central to my idea of like achieving equity for mushroom people. Is like my feeling is that if somebody's half mushroom can take some form of authority and power, then I can show that
Tip the balance.
Yeah, exactly. But if Nephia is able to take control, then my entire claim to that possibility sort of vaporizes. So even right. I think I'm like a chance to hold back Nephia. This is, yes, I'm willing to help. What do I need to do? Yeah.
Okay, and then she briefs you. I know that maybe they have a very weird name for Tuesday in the Fae folk that she now pronounces. Every this day, you have to collect the pots. And I rushed here and got myself all splashed because of it. Because I know you haven't had the chance to get to her quarters yet. So there's no easy way to say this. You have to steal it. You have to go to this collector and steal the wings.
So I think I look sideways at Twig, and
What?
I think I actually look kind of giddy, like, oh yes. And how does Twig react to this?
I mean, I think it's exciting, right? First, seeing those wings is something that is the closest he will get to the Fey magic in a long time. So this is exciting. And I'm a mouse, so everything that is stealthy and like obscure and running through the corners is something that I instinctively like to do.
Yeah.
So I'm all in for sure.
Perfect. Okay, so we're in it for different reasons. For me, I'm excited about the opportunity to sort of stick it to the man, so to speak, because to me, the wealth and opulence of the folks in the better part of town is all just a reminder of the relative squalor that the rest of us are living in, you know?
Okay. Excellent.
So stealing from a collector who's just buying things with their excess wealth is like, yes, let's do that.
Right.
So I don't ask for
Excellent.
anything in return. I'm just like, absolutely, we'll have it back in an hour.
Okay. Yeah. Count on us. Well, since we can establish a challenge in this scene yet, we could provide a twist, but it's not that simple. You need first to something. I don't know if it's an extra step or a special condition. Do you have a feeling for what kind of a twist for this? Is not simply go there and steal it.
We can layer on obstacles here. First, like,
Right.
obvious one is that perhaps Terrine, the princess, who is kind of, in my mind, is kind of running things on behalf of the slumbering king, at this very moment is visiting this collector, who we should give a name.
Right.
Let's call her Trista.
Trista the collector.
Yeah. But what that means is that some kingdom guards are stationed all around this
Excellent.
home of the collector right now while she's there.
Right. Perfect. Okay, so here's the thing. When you have a clear direction or on where the story is going after you like frame a scene, we can go straight to the scene and skip the roll. We can use the matrix as some sort of flavor to add a layer to the place we're going to. And even for that, we can pick one or roll randomly. So I believe the next scene is us arriving at this place.
I agree.
So yeah, so I don't think we need a roll on the matrix, but we might want to like look at it and maybe catch a prompt that caught our eyes that we can like insert in the narration.
Yeah.
What do you feel?
I like that. So it's not the scene itself. It's just something we could insert. I'm going to roll randomly for it.
Okay, let's see if it makes sense.
So we got 5 for the blade of a general in the berry war, or 4-5, a chill blows in from boiling lake.
Do you feel one of those?
I think the blade of a general in the berry war. So as we're approaching the home, one of the kingdom guard is a descendant of. Yeah, how long ago was the berry war? Did we determine that?
We didn't, but I was little. I'm kind of still little, so a matter of a decade.
Okay. So
Not very long.
We'll say is a son of a notoriously brutal general from the Berry War, and he carries his very well-known blade, which can slice through anything with no effort whatsoever. In fact, he can't even sheath it. He has to just hold it by the hilt, because if he tried to put it in the sheath, it would just like cut through it without. Yeah.
And it probably has those distinctive purple stains as well
Yes.
as part of it.
So
Okay.
should we go sort of step-by-step action? or should we do like a push roll for the overall result of the scene? How do you want to handle that?
The way you feel it, depending on how long you want to play and how invested you are in the consequences of minor or major actions.
Yeah.
You can skip over a whole scene with a one roll and see how it goes, or you can like have an approach and then a minor action. It's just a matter of how much you are invested in this particular resolution.
I think that I'm interested to like see one more scene. So for the sake of this, what if we just do a push roll for this whole scene?
Which is getting the wings?
Yeah.
Or,
attempting
okay. And
to
then
get the wings. Based on the outcome of that, we'll know where this is taking us. So
okay, cool.
Cool. Does it matter which of us should roll? Maybe we each roll.
Okay.
Yeah. So how does it go for each of us?
Okay, then we have two consequences. Okay, right. Yeah. Let's do this.
Let's make our decisions in silence and then talk about what we did as far as like whether we decided to push it or not.
Okay. Oh my God.
Fantastic. Okay. How did it go for us on your side?
Well, I got a 1 on my first roll.
Oh, nice.
And I decided to push because it would be a weak hit. So, and I got a 4 on the second one. So I got a total of 5. So I'm on a strong hit.
See, I took even riskier. And it also worked out for me. I got a 5, but I had a 3 on my first roll.
You pushed on a 3?
Yeah.
Yeah, good. I like it.
So anyway, we both got strong hits, which means we both get what we want here.
Right.
So let's just do sort of a quick high-level overview of how the scene played out.
Okay. I think I have a first reaction of, I think my strong hit here, I was thinking in my mind, if I had a weak hit, I might have, even after getting the wings, I kind of have a beef with the guard because of the scars that I carry mentally and physically. And I would try to, grab his blade or, I don't know, do something about it. But I think my strong hit here is interpreted as I saw that, but I could control myself and not get in trouble, direct confrontation with the guard and focus on the mission because I really want to see my grandmother again. And I could like control my instincts.
Can I challenge
sure.
you with one little sort of prompt question?
Sure.
At what point in this scene did you offer a genuine smile?
Oh, yeah, cool. I think that was the great effort really because when we were stopped by the guards right in the front, right, that's when we spotted the blade. And since I'm shorter, my eyes locked on the blade. And for a moment, I clenched my fists like, I want to punch this guy. And he asked me, what's your business here? So I looked up to him and I let go of my feelings. And I didn't try to deceive him. I genuinely offered him a smile and a good morning, my good sir. I hope your day is fantastic and your family is doing well. And that kind of honesty and good humor kind of disarmed the guard. He was all tough and trying to stop us. And I said, oh, good morning to you, sir. Then I think you said what business we had there. Yeah. And he let us in, I think.
Awesome. So I think we had a wonderful excuse to go straight to the chambers so that we could collect the chamber pot. And to our luck, the room in which she keeps all of her collection of things was both not in the sight line of the princess and in the general direction of the chambers. So we were able to get in. They were displayed prominently. So It wasn't hard for us to locate them. The only thing is that they're bigger than we expected, so that was a challenge. I'm thinking.
How do you think we carried it?
I think I took the chamber pot and I poured it out on her bed, and I put the wings into the chamber pot.
Yeah, that was exactly my thought.
Yeah.
Not the thing a fairy would love, but we kind of get the job done.
Yeah.
What's your magic again?
So mine is, I can always appreciate beautiful differences.
Do you see a way to express this here? I
think it was actually where we were stopped by the guards. Even before that, we're walking through this area, and the wealthy are all around us, and there's this underlying sense of sort of anger and like, they're no different than us. Like, why do they deserve all of this while we don't have it, and that sort of thing.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
But then, I noticed that some of them seemed to be, working hard at something. Some of them seemed to be like sick in their homes. Some of them seemed to be alone, and others were amongst their family. And so even here, there's still struggle and people just trying to do their best. And so I was able to focus on what we needed to do instead of seething about the unfairness of this portion of the town.
Very good. Okay. So are you interested in having any kind of trouble on giving these wings back to the Fae?
Yeah, let's roll on the Matrix and see if we get some inspiration here. We got a 3-2, the spark within the blaze, or a 2-3, a changing of hearts.
Oh,
I kind of like a changing of hearts here.
Me too.
What does that bring up? And who might be having a changing of hearts? Or does it mean something different than it sounds like?
Yeah, maybe a literal change of hearts.
I have a thought.
Yeah, please.
That'll give us potentially some conflict between the two of us.
Right, interesting.
As we're going to deliver these, it occurs to me that these wings are no longer in the possession of a wealthy collector, which satisfies why I wanted to get the wings. And while I am good friends with Kestria and I don't want to offend her, it's possible that they may serve my purpose better in my possession than in the possession of the Fae. And so I'm thinking that I want to use these wings and keep them for myself.
Okay. That's the wandering call.
Yeah,
the powers in her.
My precious.
My precious.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, that's a very good scene. Okay, so I think we're like going back. We have established a rendezvous with the messenger, so we could give it to her. Maybe it's like dusk, so it gets a little more dramatic. And when we are on the way, I kind of notice you are getting quieter and quieter. And, and I finally ask, hey, what's on your mind? What's going on?
And I am staring at these wings in this chamber pot, and they seem to almost be emitting like an effervescent sort of glow that's sort of coming up out of the chamber pot, which, passersby that might see us walking, they might think that it's like literal visible stench, like almost cartoonish stench coming out of it. But
this is a stinky one.
Yeah, exactly. But I'm seeing that they hold some sort of esoteric and profound power in them. And so you asked me what's on your mind.
What's on your mind? Yeah.
And I say possibilities. These wings were in the possession of the Fae for centuries, and all they did with them is have to go into hiding. My people have never had any power. And I think that with this kind of power, we might be able to rise in the kingdom of Chaterra. I think they'd be better with the mushroom folk. And I'd like to take them to Ymir.
Right. Now, I think my immediate reaction here is opposition, but I'm wondering if I find any kind of reasoning to articulate how wrong you can be, or maybe I find that your claim is it's true, but I don't think so. So I think my first answer is like I open my eyes widely and I say, Carter, what you're talking about? You're not even from the Fae folk. You couldn't even possibly tap into the magic of those wings. And even when they had possession of this power, they couldn't stop the witch. What makes you think you could do it? I'm sorry, no disrespect to what you can do, but not with a Fae power. This belongs to them. I'm trying not to use my personal reasons, you know?
Yeah. And so I say, Twig, do you believe in destiny?
I do.
There's something that I haven't told you. You know that I don't look like a mushroom person. And the reason for that is that I am half mushroom. But I haven't.
What do you mean?
I haven't told you who my father is. And I believe that my heritage means that I'm destined to do great things, but I never knew how. And I've never had in my possession something as potentially powerful as these wings are. My father is King Eirik.
Wow. What? How could he be? What do you mean? Does he know that? Is this true? Carter, are you kidding?
Honestly, I have to believe it. My mother, before I lost her to wherever she's gone, she told me. She didn't explain to me the intricacies or how this could have happened, but she told me that I was the son of King Eirik. And it was one of the last things she told me as our town burned. And I never saw her again. And so I have to believe that it's true and that it points to my destiny and that these wings may be the key to me being able to lead my people to a fair and equitable future.
I just had an idea.
All right.
I think at this moment when you say that's the key to lead your people, I have a sudden realization, and I say, now it all makes sense. Oh my God, Ymir is right. It did come a time to use it. So I say to you, grab those wings. Put it in your hands.
So I grabbed the wings. I think perhaps you're the one who took them off the shelf. And so I want to make a roll here, because what's going to happen when somebody who has no Fey blood touches these wings?
Right.
So I'm going to make a roll because it might be that something bad happens. But what I want to have happen is that they sort of like, you know, I can feel their power and I can feel that they're going to somehow accept me like as like somebody who can do something with them. But I don't know if that's what's going to happen. So
let's see.
I'm going to roll. And on my very first roll, I got a 6.
Oh, wow.
so I can feel their power and that like I'm supposed to be holding them. What do you see as I pick them up?
Well, I think we could establish that you maybe have some sort of Fey blood on the past of your lineage that you didn't know.
What if secretly King Eirik is Fey?
Oh, I love that.
And this
I
is how
love
we
that
this
so
is how we
much.
realize it is like, oh my gosh,
Yeah.
I'm not half human, I'm half Fey, right?
And you're half Fey. And I see like those wings kind of belong to you. And I see that like the energy that flows through the wings kind of has the same color as the aura you're emitting at this moment. And reach to my backpack and I pull out and produce a crown. It is fake, but it's a replica. And Amir once told me, keep this with you and you know the moment to use it. So I reach to you and place the crown on your head so you have the feeling of both the importance and the responsibility that you would have were you to accept the power and the lineage that you just discovered. You know, just to feel the weight literally of the crown.
Yeah.
How do you react?
I have this realization that all along I felt like my destiny was to, advocate for mushroom rights and give them freedom and equitable access to opportunity. But now in this moment, I realize that my destiny is much more than even that. It is tied to the restoration of the Fae people as well, and bringing them out of hiding and allowing them to be Fae in the open. And so I feel the weight. I feel it deeply that this is going to be the beginning of a long and hard fought struggle for equity in the kingdom of Chaterra.
Indeed.
And so I think that is an interesting place to stop, right?
It is. I felt the same way. That was a very good cliffhanger.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. Well, thank you so much
Season
for
1.
Yeah, exactly. Thanks so much for playing the Fires of Chaterra with me. And
Yeah. I mean, the game is very good. When you sent me the first draft, I looked over the prompts, the traits, and I said, oh, okay, this is super flavorful. There is room for a lot. And depending on what we had rolled for traits and prompts, it could have gone in a completely different direction. And I think one of the things I like the most about the push games is that only 2 pages, if you give it to different groups, completely different stories could emerge. So yeah, well done. The game is on point. Very good.
thank you. And well done on building a system that is, really conducive to, like, it gives you clear guide rails on what you need to do to create a game. And really enjoyed that. I'd love to talk for just a couple minutes about how I approached this and get your feedback on what you would have done differently or other ideas, that sort of thing. So obviously, the last episode, we built out part of this. And when we did that, I had a general idea that I wanted something fairy tale-esque. And then you said something in that episode about characters and places and world building flavor that inspired me to want to go down that path. And the way I approached this, in case it's helpful to anybody during the jam, is that I literally just built lists of places, people, and concepts that I wanted to have in here. And then not all of it made it in, obviously. Also, if you remember, I was going for like a lighter, sillier, more surreal thing initially. I think I ended up with something that's a bit more gritty than where I started from. And I think part of that is just because I didn't realize it, but maybe that's my style, a little bit grittier, So I built those lists and then I went, ooh, this sounds like a cool phrase.
That's the summary of how to create traits and prompts. Does it sound like a cool phrase? That's good. That's it.
Yeah.
That's what you're aiming for. So I think when I had experience talking to people creating other push games, and their first instinct is, if I want to have like replayability and openness for players to actually choose what the prompts mean, they have to be less direct, like a big rain, something like that as an event, or a guard, and too generic, because then you have more space for players.
Yeah.
But it's quite the opposite. The way push works is when you inject those elements like names, places, professions, or historical events that happen that you don't know what they mean yet, and be very precise when mentioning them, even if you don't explain what they mean, because they are more evocative this way than if you chose a more generic stuff that could happen in any kind of adventure. I think it sparks more the imagination of players when you have like mushroom protesters at Hollow Pasture instead of a protest in the city. Right? It gives lots of questions for you to answer. And so a good prompt and a good trait raises questions, specific questions. What are they protesting? Who are those mushrooms? What is a hollow pasture? Where is the hollow pasture? Why now? So yeah, that gives space. I think you took it very well, and I really like the idea of having bolded elements that you can connect back and forth, and even the ones that you didn't roll while playing, you can resort to use as inspiration.
Yeah.
While play. It's very good. That's the way I would do it, for sure.
Cool. I think the ones that we happened to roll worked really well together.
It helps to like reinforce that this is a very particular play style. As if with any other game, it doesn't fit all groups. If your style of play is this kind of impromptu creating stuff on top of prompts that the game gives you, if you like to like just go nuts, this is the kind of game for you for a shared storytelling. If you want something more prescriptive, maybe that won't be a fun game for you. So playtesting also has to be with folks or groups that are interested in this kind of play.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I mean, case in point, the number of times we went to the dice in this were relatively limited, right? And I think some people might be used to reaching for the dice much more frequently.
Yeah.
But I think you can also, there's room with that core mechanic to be creative about when you apply it. Well, I had a lot of fun playing, and folks, this game is going to go up on itch with plenty of community copies. If you want to go grab a copy, you can do that. Don't forget to go to capacle.itch.io/push to get a copy of the SRD, or you could check out the Relics of Denaria, which is a game built with the system by Cezar Capacle, and you can get both of those in one package as well if you want the SRD and the Relics of Denaria. There's a number of games that are already released in the push system. You can find those also on
It's
your
on my itch page.
Great.
On the capacle.io. The collection is on the bottom.
Great. Yeah. So capacle.itch.io, if you want to see the collection of push games, there's a number already in the system. And if you're a patron on my Patreon, you'll also get a free copy of this game that way as well, the Fires of Chaterra. Yeah, so with that, I really hope that if you have any inkling of designing TTRPGs, you give some consideration to joining the Push Jam. I'm excited to see what people come up with. All right, so folks, this is going to be the last of our episodes in this series of Push designing and playing, but I'm sure we'll see Cezar again, as I happen to be a big fan of his work.
So do I, so I hope.
All right. Thanks, and we'll see you in another episode of Insta-Death Survivors Support Group.
Thank you.